On the program today, I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Gavin McGregor Skinner, Senior Director of GBAC. Gavin, always a pleasure.
Hi, Jeff. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I know you travel a lot, Gavin. A lot of airplanes. Today's episode is about snakes on a plane.
Oh, gosh, snakes scare me, but it's not about snakes. It's about the other thing that scares me, Jeff. It's anything that's wet that comes from the body, blood, vomit, diarrhea. That scares me. So it's about blood on a plane today.
Okay, blood on a plane. How you just described it is troubling because when you get on an airplane, you assume it's been cleaned, sanitized, disinfected. Your seats, your tray tables, your armrests, the seat belt are clean and safe. What have you seen lately?
You've mentioned that key word, Jeff. We assume when we leave our house to travel somewhere, it would be for business or for pleasure, that we're still traveling in a safe environment that protects our health. That's not true. I travel every week. The airports are dirty. The planes are dirty. I can't see any indication of them being clean. And we've just had an international incident, which has been on the news. It's still on the news today, where there was blood on a plane and the passenger was asked or required to clean it up and has never had any training whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm looking at the article. It's an Air France flight. Can you describe some of the details of that? Because it seems like if they find some blood on a plane, not snakes, blood on a plane, you get your disinfectant, your wipes, you clean it up. Is it not that simple?
No, this is so important, Jeff. There are, at the government level, there are standards at so many countries on how you clean up blood on any surface, in any environment. So more importantly, this is a very important issue here for training and education. If you work in an area where you have to look after people, this is, again, on a plane, this is about passenger safety. Every employee on that plane has to know how to clean up the fluids that come out of someone's body, blood, vomit, diarrhea, for example. Now, in this particular example, Jeff, and this is what really upsets me, that we wait for something really bad to happen before we, like I used to say, the Worldwide Trade Association, the Cleaning Trade Association, can do something good. Something bad has really happened, where a passenger sat on a plane for 8 hours and underneath, on the carpet, on other surfaces, and you'll see this in the photos, there was blood. 3 days after the event, the airline called him and said, oh, by the way, in that blood, there was also, that passenger also had diarrhea and there was feces and they're mixed in the blood. That is really dangerous for that person's health. Now, what happened here on this particular flight, it's an 8-hour flight. The passengers sat down and there was no cleaning kit on the plane to clean up bodily fluids like blood, vomit, and diarrhea. So again, what the passengers started to do was just use dry tissue. Then the plane gave the staff on the plane, the flight attendants gave him 2 bottles of water. So he started using water with tissue. And then they gave him some of those little alcohol hand wipes. No. That is dangerous. That's not how you do it. And I don't care whether you work on a plane, in an airport, in a convention center, in a hotel, in a school, in a restaurant, anywhere. Everyone needs to be educated and trained on how to clean up blood.
Well, in this case, Gavin, this gentleman had to clean it up himself. He had to stay in that seat full flight. You know, if you can move around, that's one thing. But if you can't, I mean, what are you going to do? You're stuck. You're on a plane. What are the options? What do you
Jeff,
do?
It happened to me just recently. I got on a plane. They don't know who I am, but I got on a plane and I had blood on my armrest and on the tray table. And the flight attendant said, well, the plane's full. We can't move you. So the first thing they were going to do was try to move me to another seat. Couldn't do it. So then they said, you can get off this plane and catch the next plane. And I said, no, I travel for business. And I need to get to this particular city for a particular workshop I'm doing, which happened to be a Cleaning for Health workshop. Could you believe it, Jeff? And so then the flight attendant came and said, we don't have any way of cleaning this up. And I said, but the blood was on the plane before I got on. And so then she grabbed a few alcohol hand wipes and made the redness of the blood disappear. but did not measure the level of cleanliness. And this is what happened with this particular gentleman in his seat. Now, I don't know whether you've seen those photos that are out there, Jeff, but the surfaces we're dealing with, carpet, stainless steel, plastic. The seat is probably porous material, which means it's a fabric material with a foam interior that's all going to soak up both blood, diarrhea, and vomit. What we know about this particular incident, it's still in the news today, Jeff, this plane flew from Paris to Boston where there was a passenger that was sick, that was bleeding, hemorrhaging, and also had diarrhea. We know that passenger was ill. We don't know what that passenger had. That plane landed in Boston on June 29th. It was then supposedly cleaned. It then flew back from Boston to France, and they said in the newspaper article, we left that row of seats empty. Even after they cleaned it. That's what we do in the cleaning industry. We clean for health, and we clean to know and then we measure the level of cleanliness. It then went back to France on June 30th. This is a day after June 29th, when the person who was on the plane got sick to Boston. The plane is now back in Paris. On June 30th, this particular male passenger hops on the plane with his partner traveling, and there is still wet blood on the carpet. And we know that whether blood is wet or dry, it will carry germs, viruses, bacteria, the things that are going to make you sick. Because those viruses and bacteria don't just last for minutes or hours, Jeff, they last for days and weeks, even in dry blood.
Mm-hmm. Gavin, on Flight Radar, a tracking app, it mentioned on July 6th, there were 134,386 commercial flights.
Yo, Jeff, Flight Radar 24. I'm a bit of a fan of theirs. I watch them on Twitter all the time. Over 134,000 flights on the 6th of July. This is the busiest commercial aviation day in the history of the world.
Okay, so with all those flights, how do you keep everyone safe?
That's what's not being told. The cleaning story, how do we clean for health at airports and planes, is not being told, Jeff, and that is wrong. That needs to change. We need, the industry, the public, everyone, the passengers, for passenger safety, employee safety, everyone who is involved in that transportation industry with planes, with airports, needs to be able to tell their cleaning story. We know there are schedules and deadlines, but we can use modern day technology to clean with modern day products, with tools and equipment to ensure that you decrease the likelihood or the risk of infectious disease transmission. And that's what we're worried about. Unfortunately, Jeff, with over 134,000 planes on the 6th of July, we know that the 7th of July was just as busy. No one, and I mean no airline, can tell how they clean a plane.
So we have issues to deal with. Obviously, we're not going to solve them in this interview, but what do you see coming out of this?
Jeff, we need to focus on and help these people. We are ISSA, we're the Worldwide Cleaning Industry Association. We have so many education and training resources. We need to work with the airports, with the airlines, and say, how do we help you educate and train your staff on how to clean up blood, vomit, and diarrhea, and do it safely, so it's safe for the employee, the flight attendant, or the airport employee, and safe for the passenger. And then, Jeff, we need to show them how to measure for cleanliness. And that's what's not being done. There are tools like an ATP meter. Jeff, this is an ATP meter. We know what industries use this, and they use it really well. They measure the cleanliness of a surface by measuring ATP, adenosine triphosphate. And it's so important. You use a swab, Jeff. Every plane should have an ATP meter. Every airport should be using ATP meters. This is 2023, Jeff. Use the technology we have at hand to measure the level of cleanliness, measure how dirty the surface is before you clean it, and then clean the surface based on industry's best standards, contact ISSA for those industry best standards, and then measure the level of cleanliness. On that particular flight that left France with that particular gentleman, there was no measurement of cleanliness. When the flight left Boston, there was no measurement of cleanliness. Simple things, Jeff, simple things. It's going from what I would say right now is ridiculous to let's be responsible.
So I guess we could say airlines were putting you on notice to pay attention to this. anyone watching this, send it to the airlines, you know. Hopefully some executives will act on this, Gavin, and ISSA is there for them.
It's about accountability, Jeff. Be accountable. Understand that you clean for health and you measure the level of cleanliness, and that your workers, your employees, your staff need to be trained on how to clean up blood, vomit, and diarrhea. It's that simple. This is not hard. This is not a difficult thing to do. It's just no one's doing it.
Okay, Gavin, we want to help people at ISSA and at GBAC. How do people reach us and what can we do?
Oh, Jeff, this is so important. Everyone's questions, their comments, if they need help with education and training on how to clean up blood, vomit, diarrhea, if they need help on how to use an ATP meter to measure the cleanliness of surfaces, then we have a contact web page. We're going to put the link into that contact website. It's monitored nearly 24 hours a day. Send us your questions, your comments. Send us your requests for help. We will reach out to you to organize education, training, webinars. This can be done, and it can be done very easily.